Welcome to BEabove Leadership's Coaching 101 series, where we explore the science behind classic coaching techniques and tools. And today we're looking at the classic coaching exploration of values. So welcome, Ursula Patina, my dear friend and business partner.
Hey, and it's great to be here, and I'm very excited about the topic today of values.
Well, let's start. We always love to talk about the why and then the how.
Okay.
So that's what we're going to do is we're first going to look at why would we explore values? What might be important about that? So Ursula, from a neuroscience perspective, in terms of the client's brain, what's your sense of why values are an important part of the coaching relationship?
Well, I think that one of the things that I find when I explore values with the client, it really makes the clients think. It really is this beautiful moment oh, I have never looked at this like that. So I think for me, it really speaks to neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. And I think it's one of those wonderful tools to use right at the front or the front end, the beginning of the coaching relationship, where people are really wanting to explore new ways of being.
Yeah, I really love that. I love the idea and this sort of a classic part of how we understand the brain in terms of how it's wired and helping someone see themselves as their values has, we've both been coaches almost 20 years, Ursula 20 years, me 19, I think. There have been so many just beautiful ahas when somebody's like, that's a value. Like that's part of who I am. I think about, I'm going to share one of my own. I was in a coaching training class and one of the teachers was saying that she had a high value of aesthetics. And it was really bothering her that her socks didn't match her pants. And I was like, I thought I was just like a clothes horse or picky. It never occurred to me that I actually have a value around aesthetics. And it's really true. I like how things look and are arranged. That's a value. And it was so empowering.
I know, I really, really love that. That really resonates. And I think that values exploration in that context is also really great for relationships. So you and I share a value of beauty and aesthetics. So what many people might look upon, from my vantage point as like, I'm obsessive because I'm constantly moving the teapot and the loose leaf tea around so it's lined up. But when you share values in any kind of partnership, whether it's romantic or business, when these values line up, it makes being together a lot easier.
Well, and it also, even if I didn't share that value, it makes me able to understand that you're doing it driven by a reason that is from you and who you are. And I think this would link to one of my key reasons. I think there's a number of reasons why values are so helpful. The other one that I would point to, and this is something that you're going to hear us say again and again in this series, is it is about integration. And I want to slow that down and give you our definition of integration, which comes from Dr. Dan Siegel, that integration is the linkage of differentiated elements. So one of the ways that I think about working with values with the client is I am helping them differentiate who they are. Then, as I work with them through the coaching process, I am working to help them link their values together. And I'm going to give you a really good example of this. I was just talking actually to a friend right before this call, and she was talking about wanting to she's just a powerhouse creative with a lot to offer. And she also has 2 small children at home. Right? And she's in a good position in a good company. And there's all these leadership opportunities. And so this is this conversation that to me, she's actually someone I've worked with on this. She's differentiated. She knows she has these values of like legacy and making a difference and contribution, as well as, supporting her family and all of that. And so this is the interesting conversation, which is, okay, how do you link those? How do
Yeah,
you not sell out on either part of yourself, the leader and the mom,
yeah.
because both are part of your values, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, and I think that in coaching, for me, that is often really a great topic that people bring to coaching is, well, I really want that, but then I have to give up this.
Right.
And, when it's related to values, well, it's, from the coaching mindset, it's not possible even to give it up because it will eventually sort of knock on your door. It will get louder and louder, like a naughty 4-year-old.
Right.
And
And
you go,
that is
I want to be heard. Poke,
right.
poke,
And that is
poke.
the key. I mean, we learned values in our coaching school. It was taught in a class called fulfillment. I mean, in most coaching schools will touch on values to some degree. But what I was taught, and I still believe, is that finding ways to consistently honor your values is the key to a fulfilling life.
Yeah.
So there is that, but it's not always easy to figure out. I wanted to say before we go more into the how, I was thinking there are so many ways that it plays out in the brain. So it's helping us, with neuroplasticity by pulling into focus something we can then pulling into focus on something that we can then make more apparent and really work to become better at
Yeah.
through neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
And that's the integration of differentiating, first seeing it and then linking it.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is that the place that we process values tends to be a different part of the brain or a different system than where we focus on checking things off our to-do list. So
Mm-hmm.
we know that in a values conversation, we're probably going to activate probably more of our right brain
Mm-hmm.
and probably more of our default mode network. And
Mm-hmm.
both of these are different aspects of the brain. You can always read more about any part of the brain in my blog, yourcoachingbrain.wordpress.com. There's a ton out there on this, but just very briefly, what I want to say is one aspect that they share is they tend to open up our thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have a client focusing on their values, you're going to have them in a more open, receptive, kind of taking in the big picture part of their brain.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, really, values, when I think about my own values, really takes me into a big picture
Mhm.
place. Values is not a place where it gets, where you have to think about narrow, but far more broader and often in the bigger context of your life, not just necessarily in one area. So I can really see how helpful that is, especially when it comes to finding inspiration and creativity.
Well, and yeah, absolutely. And back to this idea of fulfillment, when I think about, how many people are just, just sort of nose to the grindstone, move along, get the next thing done, get the next promotion without ever stopping to say why. Why
Right.
is this important to me? How do I make this decision? I've been offered this new thing. How do you know what you want? Well, one way to know what you really, really want is to look to see how many of your values does it line up against. Is it in violation of your values or is it in
Right.
support of your values? Because that's going to tell you whether you're going to be happy or not.
Yeah, that is so absolutely true. I love what you're saying. The other thing that's coming to mind is, and going back to relationship, I don't know why that seems to be so important to me to debate today. Who knows? But I really see that when we understand each other's values in a relationship, how much more connecting that is. And
Yeah.
again, I think, it's the right hemisphere that really has a much better take on relationship than the left
Empathy.
hemisphere that's far more specific.
Yeah, more connection, more empathy, and
Yeah.
so in there. So if I can understand that the reason you did something was that you were trying to honor a value, then that can give me a perspective and maybe empathy. And I think, I come back to that values aren't right or wrong. They are what they are.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk in a minute about how do you discover what a client's values are. But where it gets tricky is, how does someone honor them? And years ago, I actually we were working in an at-risk youth high school, and we coached some really interesting kids. And I had one of the most interesting conversations about values I've ever had. One of my clients, we identified his values, and he had some leadership, he had honor, respect, and he also was in a gang. And so we looked at the decision to stay in the gang or not be in the gang from the perspective of, well, what values would you honor? How would you honor those values? If you do this thing that the gang asks you to do, what other values might you be violating? I had to really self-manage, but it was a fascinating conversation to see that, for example, we both shared a value of respect. How he chose to try to get that fulfilled sometimes involved violence, which would violate other values of mine, right? But it was kind of it was an interesting perspective.
Yeah,
So
I really, that is really fascinating, because what it really shows me, that to some degree, knowing or not knowing, we all try to honor our values. Sometimes it's just from a place that isn't effective as it relates to the world or work or other people. And then we have to really figure out, how can I honor this value that is honoring and effective as it relates to, just life.
right. And I think part of what happens there is that we get so focused on one value, or maybe two, that feels so important, like respect, that I have this metaphor that I call those maple tree values. And it's this idea that if you live in a part of the world where maple trees grow, one of the things that happens is not much grows underneath them, because their leaves are very, very thick. And so you can end up with bare ground. And I think that's a value that is taking all the sunlight. Super important to you. It could be security. And so you'll like sell out all the rest of your values just as long as you can have security, right? Or respect. Or we worked in the nonprofit world, and we still do. And the value there that is often the maple tree is making a difference.
Yes. Yep.
So
And that very often is so important to a whole bunch of people, a whole team of people, that they often forget certainly a value of self-care and,
or
and
humor, or play.
I have freedom at ease as my, maple tree. There used to be my maple tree value. And I had to really look at that and go, well, freedom and ease as a value, not as a maple tree, but as a plant. What are other values that then are allowed to also bloom and grow? And that has been really interesting.
Yeah, I really love that. I want to say one other thing about that, this sort of one of our big things that we forgot about the neuroscience of values, is that there's really good research that when someone is stressed or upset, and you ask them what values are important, or what values got stepped on in this situation, that can reduce their stress. And so, you were talking, Ursula, and I think we should go there next, that this is something you often do early on. Because if I want to ask my client, well, what values got stepped on, they need to know what their values are.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's a critical thing. And by the way, just to finish the loop on that, that's proven to reduce cortisol in the system. And cortisol is a stress marker. So it's not just that people say they feel better, they physiologically seem to feel better when you can shift to this question of what are your values. So we think it's a really good anti-stress tool. But the question then is, okay, so Anne and Ursula, it's a great anti-stress tool, and maple tree values and all of that. How do you know what they are? So Ursula, if you're working with a new client, what is one of your favorite ways to discover, well, what are their values?
I let them tell the story of a time in their life when life felt just yummy and fulfilling and grounded. And, it's this, it is when everything just fits together beautifully. And that, I just let them go back to whatever point in life that was, like, was it a month ago or 20 years ago? It really doesn't matter.
So some people might call that like have them reflect on a peak experience.
Yeah, that's, in coaching, that's what it is, peak experience, and that is really, it's this, so tell the story. And
And if
it's
I'm
really,
telling you my story, then what are you listening for?
I am listening for what you value. There's often also a theme of respect, or a theme of, accomplishment, or again, respect. The words that come up, the descriptions that come up again and again. It could be that somebody describes a working experience. Oh, I got to work from home and it was lovely because I had all this flexibility and this creativity and felt so easy and I really enjoyed myself. And it's like, okay, I'm taking notes because
It's so interesting because what's sort of coming to me is that in a way you're not even really listening that much to the story. You're
no,
listening for the themes and
yeah,
what are the words and what have they said more than once. And you can always ask, well, what was important to you about working from home? And
right.
sometimes as a coach, you do need to go that layer deeper. You say,
Yes.
well, tell me more. What felt really important about that? Or what was really cool about that?
Right. And the other thing that's also interesting is that, very often when people talk about, oh, it was so frustrating and that made me really mad, there is a value underneath that. It's just sort of approaching the values conversation from the opposite end.
Yeah.
Because what makes us mad, or what's missing, also points to a value. And I find it really fascinating. We are constantly talking values talk,
I
constantly,
know.
without knowing it.
I had this experience once where I sat next to this nice young guy on the airplane, and um, I was just in the mood to chat that day, and we get to chatting, and it's just so obvious to me in 5 minutes what his values are. He happened to be a very like self-aware, cool guy. Ended up being a good friend of both of ours down the road after this random meeting on an airplane. But it was so clear he was talking about things like legacy and what else, accomplishment, integrity. I think that was what first stood out to me. He said something and I looked at him and I said, wow, it's really clear you have a high value of integrity. And he looked at me like I was a witch.
Yeah,
It was like, yeah, I think I do. How did you know? And I'm like, you just said it. He never said the words integrity, but everything around what he was saying was pointing me to that. And I think as coaches, there's always this, hey, I think that's what it is. Let me offer it. So it sounds like that. Is that true? I'm not going to, just necessarily diagnose you as integrity guy. But what was really funny is that we stayed in connection and connected on LinkedIn or whatever. And then he called me at one point, a couple months later, and he said, hey, I want you to do that thing you did with me. I want you to do that with my wife. And I said, what did I do? He said,
like
that whole thing where you like told me what my values were. And
out your magic wand and go boom.
I was like, what did I even, we just had a conversation. But I think there's a famous quote, I don't know who said it, but it's something like, I can't hear what you're saying because who you are is speaking so loudly.
Oh, I love that. That is beautiful. That is beautiful.
I
Yeah.
think that's values.
Yeah.
Well, I
So
would say,
how about what's your favorite way of doing it?
well,
One of your favorite ways.
it's somewhat similar, but just a little bit of a tweak. So, and I will often do this, and you can do this with, best experience or peak experience as well, because you can have them write about it, which
Mm-hmm.
is really fun, because then you just take your little highlighter pen and just like, doop, doop, doop. What did you say? How many times did you say creativity? That's really interesting. But what I tend to do, I like the peak experience. What I really like is to ask them a series of questions. Like, for example, tell me about somebody you admire. Why do you admire them?
Mm.
Because anything that you admire there's going to be a value there, maybe more than one.
Yeah.
What are some of the others? I love to ask, tell me something that makes you mad.
Mm-hmm.
What's missing?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's often, and what I often find that if I ask somebody, like what's important to you or what's something you really value, often the brain can go blank. But if I say, what makes you mad? People are like, that.
They
Everybody
have
knows that.
something.
You know, and
Yeah.
if you say traffic, okay, traffic makes me mad. Why? What is it about traffic? And often you get to a value of either it's like freedom, I don't feel free, or it's respect, like
Mm-hmm.
that. And I do think there is some, you know, sometimes you just have to, like I said, go a little deeper. So
Yeah.
if I say, what is something you have to have no matter what? That's a
Mm-hmm.
question that I like. And somebody says money. I say, okay, what does money represent to you?
Mm-hmm.
What is it about money? I don't take money as a value in and of itself. I think it's a means to an end. And I find that people come into one of two camps, and I haven't found anything different.
And what are those?
The general arena of freedom or the general arena of security.
Exactly.
One or the other.
Exactly.
Freedom could also be creativity, but it's either money allows me to do all of these great things and I love that, or money helps me feel less scared.
Well, and what's interesting when you then get deeper into around this whole thing of money, there are then other layers that point to value. So, you know, I know somebody who, you know, took on a second job, and, you know, I was curious, you know, what the reasons were why she would do that. And she said, well, that's going to be my travel money. And so there is a value
Yes.
around adventure. And it's
Yes.
interesting, you were speaking to it. Money in itself isn't a value, nor is family a value. It's just an umbrella that hides all these other values. And travel in itself isn't a value. It's like, what is traveling giving here? And it was adventure and learning.
Yeah, I was going to say travel to me would speak to, and it might be different. And this is where, you know, this is why I think it's so yummy, to use a coaching term. Sorry. I'm going to say yummy and juicy a lot.
I wanted to say juicy earlier on, and I stopped myself and
But
I said
why
yummy instead.
it's so rich is that it's different for everybody. You know, we might both say, I love travel, but for me, it's actually about connection and who I get to meet. For somebody else, it might be about pushing themselves to do things that are really, you know, it could be about courage or adventure. Why are you laughing?
I have a huge value right now about staying at home.
Home safety.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to say, so even something like travel or money could be different, but even something that is of value. So for example, integrity. And this is why I do not like, so forgive me if you love these, they can be a doorway, but they cannot be the final room.
Yeah.
If you have a values check off list, like
Yeah.
check off of all of these values, check the ones that fit for you. It's not going to help the person really understand themselves. But what will help them understand themselves is if we come to it, you know, it sounds, you have said honesty and integrity a number of times, like in my questions, what do you admire? Well, this honesty, integrity, like that. So then I might say, it really feels like there's something important to you around this. Tell me more. What does that mean to you? Because I want to have them often, and this is a metaphor we've both used a lot, is it's sort of like saying I have the value of integrity is like saying I like ice cream.
Yeah.
Okay, we're in the ice cream shop. But
Exactly.
I like rum raisin, and not everybody likes rum raisin. You know, you
I
might
don't.
like strawberry, right? So your flavor of integrity could be very different than mine. And there might be the overlap is they're both ice cream. So they
Yeah.
might have some basic ingredients.
Yeah. Yeah. How we express and how we live that value can be very, very, very different. So as you said, integrity, freedom, whatever it is the ice cream. But then, you know, how does this get expressed in this person's life? That then is the, you know, the unique flavor. And it's a really, I find it, again, you know, when I work with leaders, and I'm sure you find that as well, they often think that conflict arises from, I don't know, personality conflicts. And it can be that, but more often than not, I find that people are wanting to honor values that are at opposite ends of the spectrum. You know, somebody might really enjoy freedom and creativity, and somebody else has a value about structure and accomplishment.
Are you
Well,
talking about me and my ex-husband now?
no, I didn't have that in mind. I was thinking about somebody, but not that. But
Well, can I say something to that? Because I think that's super cool.
yeah,
Because honestly, I mean, my ex-husband's a good guy. And what was true for us is that there were times where my sort of open, adventurous spirit would really be a beautiful balance for his more need for security and being able to plan things. Like, for example, we would go on vacation and I'm the one who's like, wow, let's try this. And he's the one who read all the guidebooks. And then the combination could be really powerful when we both valued the other. Where we got into trouble was when I wasn't respecting his need for security and he was not respecting my need for freedom.
yeah,
So
yeah,
back to relationships, and this is where it can be really, really powerful in a workplace or in a personal relationship for both to understand what are your driving values, and in this conflict, how do we have the difficult, creative, you know, alchemy of saying, how do we both get what we need? Like if
yeah.
we're planning money, I know you need security. I need to honor that, but you need to honor that I need some freedom and I can't just be under your thumb
Yeah.
around my,
And
right?
this really speaks so beautifully to what you were quoting earlier from Dr. Dan Siegel, integration. That is really, you know, differentiated parts, your husband's value of security, your value of creativity and freedom. So that's differentiated. And now when you have a conversation about how you structure that vacation, then that gets linked. And that then becomes, you know, a beautiful thing.
Yeah, when you can really lean into that.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I think about working with a client, the first thing you want to do is you want to have some structured way where you start hearing what they're saying,
Yeah.
because they will reveal it. And you can come up with your own open-ended questions. What makes you mad? What do you admire in a friend? What do you admire in your parents? What other questions? What do you have to have? If you had to go to a desert island and only bring 3 qualities, what would they be?
Yeah. What gets
Um,
you up in the morning?
like that. And then you just mine for what are the words they're saying. And so, you know, I think of it as you end up with a whole bunch of stuff out on the table. And then you want to dig deep. You want to actually now make each one sort of clear. And so the client has, you know, anywhere from 5 to 10 pretty clear values. And this is something, by the way, that can continue to be discovered and expand. You don't
Yeah.
have to have it all in the first session, right?
No, I think that the discovery of the first values is, in my experience, takes about half an hour to 45 minutes, which is the length of my coaching session. And then we can revisit that and dig deeper. It can also be homework. Is
Right.
looking at where are you honoring these values? Where are you not?
And they might have non-traditional names, and that can be sort of fun. You know, it doesn't have I think one of my fellow coach trainers back when I was teaching basic training, I think she had a value she just called yellow, which
Mm.
which
Can you
was like
remember what
about
it was?
it was about joy and
Mm.
like color and like being in the moment. It had a particular meaning to her. So I want to talk a little bit about that, but you're making me think about, I want to say it was only a couple of years ago, and I've done this for many years. I've thought about values, taught values. And I said to Ursula, I said, I think I'm discovering a new value. And, you know, of course, Ursula, being Ursula, who has a high value of curiosity, by the way, she said, oh, well, what's that? And I said, I'm calling it nail it to the floor.
That is so true.
Because I had realized I had this this
Uh-huh.
that bothered me, that I loved when I could do, and it bothered me when I couldn't, and when other people didn't do it, and it's all about clarity. And it's not my only value. It coexists with flexibility, but it's part of who I am. And if you've ever taken a class from me, you can probably see I want to nail it down as much as I can.
Yeah, and I think that is a beautiful description of, there is a value of clarity, but in your case, it really gets expressed as nailing it to the
Yeah.
floor, which has a very different energy or flavor to just clarity. It is a unique expression of you. I mean, totally. I have a value around clarity, but it's not so much nailing it onto the floor. It's for me, it's sort of like wiping a slate clean. That's for me is
Yeah.
clarity, is polishing something, dusting it off. That's sort of would be my expression of value of
So you
clarity.
can really see there's overlap there,
Yeah.
but for me, that doesn't do it. I don't know what I'm nailing to the floor, and it's probably kind of bad because it's like something that then can't get away. Like it's like, it's terrible. So this brings me to the last thing that I think we want to talk about was, so you've got all these words and you have clarity is coming up and respect and honesty and integrity. Well, okay, those are just words on a checklist. How do you help the client actually really own them? And I think there's probably a number of ways. There's two that are coming to mind. And one of them is create a metaphor for it. So there's, what, and it, depending on how your client thinks, you can take them there. So say, Ursula, what is a metaphor for your version of clarity? What is that like?
Mm-hmm.
We have a little trick for coaches if you have a client who doesn't speak metaphor very well, like I know Ursula does. Some clients don't as well. The trick is that you ask them about something that they love and are familiar with. So if they're a cook, you say, okay, so for clarity, what kind of meal is that?
Mm-hmm.
Or kitchen utensil? Or where would you find that in your kitchen?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Make it relevant to their experience, whatever their hobbies or their passion is. Yeah, I really love the metaphor, because that can in itself then create a story and an expansion of so many things. I think we will probably,
Really personal, I think, is what I like about it. It's like, that's mine.
yeah.
And it's friends with yours, but it's mine and I understand myself better. So I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
No, I wanted to say that we are probably going to have a coaching 101 on metaphors down the road.
Yeah,
So
watch for that.
more on that.
Yeah. The other thing that I think you can do in order to get the client really in the experience of the value is something that we were trained to do that's just called a value string. And it's pretty simple. It's where you might start with the word integrity. And then I would say to the client, okay, so Ursula, I know you actually have a value of integrity, and I've written that down. What words do you associate with integrity? And I've made a little slash mark. So
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the words that go with your flavor of integrity?
Keeping my word,
Keep my word.
following through.
So keep my word. So I've made a slash. Keep my word. Follow
And
through.
honesty. For me, honesty, funnily enough, is part of integrity, although honesty in itself can also be a value string that starts something completely different.
So you end up with, that's her flavor of ice cream. It's like if you've ever been to Cold Stone Creamery or wherever that is, and you get the ice cream and they mix all the stuff in. These are Ursula's mix in.
Yeah.
Because integrity is a little vanilla.
Yeah.
And then for me, I might start with integrity, and my value string would be integrity. And the first thing that would come up is walk the talk.
Mm.
Have your life be in alignment. Do what you believe. To me, that's integrity. And you can see there's a lot of overlap between me and Ursula. And that's probably in her ice cream as well, but it might not be the first thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She wanted more sprinkles.
Yeah, no, keeping my word is, follow through commitment is at the top. It rises like the cream rises to the top. And yeah, walk the talk is definitely in it. And I think keeping my word is very similar to walking the talk, is keeping my word to others and myself.
Yeah, and so what you do is you start illuminating for the client and differentiating more. What does this mean to me?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know what it really means to me. I don't know if I'm doing it. So this is such a beautiful jumping off place. So first of all, it's always something you can have the client reflect back to.
Yeah.
So for example, okay, I have this new opportunity at work. Well, let's pull out your values list and tell me how it would fit with your values. Sometimes it's enough like, oh yeah, oh shit. No,
Oh,
right?
I forgot about that.
I forgot about my values, right? How else would you use them in coaching as you're coaching someone over the course of your coaching engagement?
Well, it's a good question. It's funny. I mean, I have to really think about it because it's so the water that I swim in.
Yeah,
If you would ask a
doing it.
client, they would probably. But I think it's really when they are trying to make a decision and they're not sure which way to go. Or when they are feeling a sense of unease or something isn't working, either in a relationship or at work, or something isn't quite working. And the other thing, and this just actually occurred to me, when we work on vision for their whatever, the next year, the next 2 years, we often look at values, because what is a vision if it's not connected to what you value most?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I like that. I agree with all of those. I think often it's a comeback to if someone is if something's off,
Yeah.
or they're stressed or upset. So it could either be, okay, in this situation, what got stepped on, and they're like, well, I have a really big value of honesty, and my boss is asking me to lie for him.
Yeah.
Well, now you want to know why you're upset. That's why you're upset. Your values are being violated, right?
Yep.
I think the flip side is true as well. And we're taping this right in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. And one of the questions that I asked myself as I was getting stressed out about all of this is what are the values that I want to focus on during this time? And that was a way of calming down my stress and kind of bringing me into a place where it wasn't just me and my own fear. So again, we ask about values, they bring you to a more expansive part of the brain or system in the brain. And that really was, I think that's the most key thing that I did that has helped me kind of stay steady, is I keep checking in. Am I honoring my values? How can I honor my values more? And it kind of keeps my boat going forward
Well,
there.
this is interesting that you say this. This is a conversation that I had with my husband. So, I'm living with someone in the pandemic, and so we're stuck at home, and, I'm not traveling anymore. He isn't traveling anymore. And quite honestly, we are just not used to it because one of us is always in the different location. I mean, we've been married for 42 years, but the truth is we've only really spent 20 years together. The rest has been, in a plane. So this is new for us. So, so when
There's like a value of autonomy there or
I
something.
don't know what it is, but I have a value around structuring my day, because that is working for me. I have my clients, my appointments. I like to work out. So I like structure, and my husband really has a value around, what do you call it? Spontaneity.
Yes, he does. He
He
really
has
does.
a huge
And
value
we
around
love that
spontaneity.
about him. He's
Yeah,
all
oh,
for
it's
something fun.
fabulous. It's fantastic. So the first couple of days, it was structure, spontaneity, structure, spontaneity. We were like, and like after the third day, it's like, okay, this is not working. So we need to have a conversation. So I said, how I like to live is I like to get up early, go to bed earlier, and have a little bit of a structure when I can work out. And so I said, so this is really what I would like to do, but you can do your thing. And he said, no, I can't sign up for that. And then I said, well, if we do that, then what would you like to do? Well, he said, then, I guess we could go for a walk if you feel like it, or we could have lunch together if we feel like it. And I said, yeah, absolutely. And after we had that conversation, living together became so much easier.
Well, it's back to what you said. You're both differentiated,
Yeah.
and you're saying, how do we each get what we need? Rather than having a fight about what's not happening, you start looking to see, how do we each honor what's important to us? And I think it's incredibly calming to the brain to know this person cares about what's important to me. And we may be, we may have different things that are important, but they don't, they want me to have what I want.
Yes,
So
they can coexist. They
yeah,
can exist together. You just have to, not suffer through it like I did the first couple of days. And it was really funny. I kept thinking, why is this not working? Why is this not working? And I thought, Ursula, you don't have a lot of neuroplasticity around, being
Right.
together for a whole month. I mean, when did that happen the last time? I can't remember.
And then to think that it comes back to something in values. And I think ultimately, and maybe this is a really good wrap up point, is that we're always challenged. Honoring one value, you can have your maple tree. It's very easy to honor one value. It might be very easy to honor integrity and always say what you mean and, lay it out there. But if you also have a value around in kindness, you're like, oh shit, I really want to say what I think here, but that might hurt their feelings. Okay, so that's your tension point. That's your creativity of what kind of person am I who says what they think, doesn't lie, but is also kind. Now
Yeah.
that's a powerful person. That's a powerful leader, human, parent, whatever. But it's not necessarily easy. It's easier to be a maple tree, just do one. Just be kind, but don't ever say what you think, or just say what you think and who cares. And there's lots and lots of our values like that. That is the challenge. And if you're coaching someone, that is also a really good place to keep looking. What values are in conflict? How can we creatively? The more values you honor, the more fulfillment you have. So that's our challenge as
And
coaches.
I completely agree. And I will say that if you have values that you have ignored for a while, there will eventually come knocking on your door. It does not matter how long you wait, there will eventually really poke you. And it's a really good thing to pay attention to that.
Yeah, there's more to come. We're going to talk about the opposite of values, which some people call gremlins or saboteurs. We're going to talk about vision and life purpose and all of that. So please, if you enjoyed Coaching 101, like it. We love that. Please like it. Subscribe to our channel. This is what keeps us going, is knowing that what we're doing actually makes a difference. So thanks for hanging out with us today.
Yes,
Bye.
and that was wonderful. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.